first of all, I would like to thank the artists for accepting that I would have the talk with you, and of course the gallery for inviting me, and the audience for being here. And I have a very first real question, because I thought that when I saw the work on reproduction, and I told you, I thought you were from California in a certain way, because of a kind of lightness in the form, because I couldn't see really the material, and there was like a kind of reproduction element, which is quite classical in the Californian style, that I thought you were Californian. Apparently, if I see the exhibition, it's not at all.
Which I told you.
Which you told me, and I agree with you that it's very far from this kind of idea. But to come back, you said that you're in New York and you were educated in, or you followed your studies in Chicago?
I went to Chicago for undergrad studies, and I went to the Art Institute of Chicago, and I mean, the influence, as a place, I think part of it was actually getting away from New York, where I grew up, and not only did I grow up there, I worked at the Metropolitan Museum starting when I was 16, so I was very interested in art, and I was kind of surrounded by art, and also I was working at art galleries when I was 18, and so I think I had an understanding. I had an understanding of what great art was, but it was also very frustrating because I wasn't equipped. I didn't have the skills to make that, and it was very frustrating for me. And difficult. And so going to Chicago, I felt like there was first an alleviation of that pressure, because it's not the center of at least America's art world. Also the program allowed me to do everything. Like I took Photoshop classes, and I took shoe design classes, and I took painting and sculpture, and so it kind of equipped me to not have to be so focused as a painter, which is really what I went in there for, and which I think when you see the show, which uses drawing and painting and even elements of how sculptural elements as well, the time I spent in Chicago really prepared me for that, and led to this work and the work that came thereafter. My mother is an artist and is an art teacher, and my father believes that art is the most. He believes art is the most important thing, even though he is not an artist himself.
Coming back to the work, because if I see I see three things, but I think everybody see them also. But there is the drawing, there is the painting, and there is the sculpture in a certain way. These three elements, but they are you try to integrate them one to the other. On the other hand, there are three disciplines who are very far from each other also. Mm-hmm. If I see the drawings, are the drawings based on a direct perception, or they seems to be very emotional, very direct, very intuitive, or not?
They are very emotional, and they are intuitive, but maybe not in the way they are made after the paintings, these drawings.
They're made after the painting.
Yeah, and I don't have...
So the observation of the drawing is the painting itself.
Yeah, but the painting, I'm not looking at the painting when I'm making the drawing. I'm trying to rework every aspect of the painting from the drawing again and again, and so it is this emotional, I don't know, it's the end. It's the end. It's like not quite a funeral, but it's like I'm trying to. There's a sadness to it because
You're working out of memory. So
out of memory.
It's not even the image.
Yes.
It's the memory of the image.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of correction fluid, and there's things that are off, and I have to kind of rework it and rework it and rework it, similar to the way the paintings have to be reworked to get them where they want.
Which is strange, because if you see the drawings, there are a few things. We can discuss hours about the drawings only, but what's very strange to me is that there are very sharp angles, a lot of sharp angles, which refers for me to the 20s and the 30s, the expressionist of Haeckel and things like that, where these triangles always stand for fastness, intuition, kind of darkness, even a kind of rather the dark side of the soul, rather than the optimistic side of the soul. And if you see then the paintings, because painting is always in a certain way, it's probably too short, but it's always in a certain way kind of reproduction. It's always a kind of reproduction of the reality, of a certain reality. And if you see the paintings and you see the lines in the paintings, they stay, but you try to make them as representational.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about the paintings is that because it's all made by me and made by hand, there's a big part of the errors in the lines. The lines are imperfect, you know, and I think this goes back to what you were saying about being a California artist to maybe being a New York artist, is that those lines have a certain maybe representational or just human quality, and I think to me, I'm always pushing up against making something and getting good at making it, and then when I get good at making it, I want to make something another challenge, and because I want the struggle of trying to create something to be in the physical object, and I think that that's something that is not easily explained when you see the work, but I think it's something that really transfers to the viewer and has a real impact.
And if you go back to sculpture then, where is the sculpture element? Because for me, sculpture in a certain way has always to do with a few things. Sculpture has to do with weight, always, that's one thing. Secondly, always with texture. The third thing, and even probably the most important thing, is time, because sculpture is something which takes an awful lot of time to make it, whatever you do. If you make it in clay or bronze or whatever, sculpture is time in reverse to painting, which is much faster. And sculpture is also always space. These are the four.
And all four things are, these paintings have all four of those things, you know.
Except the weight.
Well, yes, but I think that, to me,
even with the lead, you can refer to that.
Yeah, the lead and the canvas. But I believe that that great art, great paintings have a relationship to weight that's similar to sculptures. Like I think that, like what I always try, my standard for making something that I think is truly great is that it feels heavier than it is, or that it has like a certain weight, like a presence. It feels like it's gonna fall off the wall, you know, because it's so powerful, so heavy, even if it's not.
Like, coming back to the paintings and the sculpture, what is the idea of repetition in or series? Because although all the paintings are very different because of the texture, because of the color, because of the... But formally they're very close to each other, even sometimes literally. They're exactly the same, approximately exactly the same image.
Yeah. So I made paintings with new compositions constantly for several years. And at some point I was looking for another way in, another way out, another challenge, a different direction. And I realized that I was continuing to draw and collage and rework several images, both representation images and abstract images that I'd used, and that there was an importance to them, and that there was like almost an alphabet that was within my work that I was kind of neglecting to really use, and that this could open up other ways of composition, you know, and that I could use the compositions I had already made to further deepen not only the compositions, but the layout and the opportunity of my paintings and where they could go. So, for example, you know, this painting, these, you know, all three paintings here have the same form, and one is collaged with a second abstract image, one is collaged with an image of a representation object, and one is collaged with its own image again. And that was just so exciting and interesting to really, and it also allows this image to have a greater meaning to the viewer, because it's continued again and again, and it's not just its initial form and its initial relation to a figure, for example, but now it has the second figure, the smaller figure that represents itself, and what does that mean, and what does it mean when it has the abstract object or the representational object, and they hopefully they all it layers and layers and layers, and then it goes somewhere else.